Just wait a few minutes to see who comes on, because we were supposed to go on yesterday, but we were busy. So
How you doing? We're just waiting a while, trying to give people time to come in, and then we'll get started. Happy 4th. It's good to see you.
I don't see where we. Yeah, give it a few more minutes, and then we'll just do what we do.
All right.
You slurping, dude?
Well, all right then. It's time to get started.
You slurping the pop. Yeah, that's something else. But anyway, hey everybody, this is Rob from Diaspora Kicking the Bobo. Today we're going to be talking about basically reparation, slavery versus Jim Crow. I'm on Team Jim Crow. My son is on Team Jim Crow, but he's going to argue the slavery end of it, unless we get somebody else, who literally comes in and thinks that we should probably be getting it for slavery or Jim Crow. One of the things that, that's been a big thing on the news is the fact that they got rid of, what was that? The affirmative action. And the thing about affirmative action is that affirmative action basically gave African Americans a seat at the table, and most minorities a seat at the table. But they just now they took it away and said that there's no more racism and we don't need it. My thing is that I still believe that there are a whole lot of racism, especially systematic racism. But the thing about it is I think that this may be a blessing to African Americans. It might force us to start doing business amongst each other, because in the past, before affirmative action, we were doing business with each other, and you had, Rosewood. You had all of these people who fought to keep us, out of the economical system. And the thing about it is that it didn't work until segregation. And once segregation came on, that's when we kind of lost our spot, lost our money, and different things like that. So getting rid of this law might force us to, do what we need to do, come together and spend money amongst, ourselves. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't spend money with everybody. I'm just saying, most of our money should stay in the community, and that right there would be one of the best things that could happen to us. And I really believe that. But here's the thing about slavery versus Jim Crow. When you talk about slavery, back in during the 1500s, when basically they started bringing slaves over, slavery was a common thing, throughout history. Everybody conquered and everybody had slaves. The problem with our system was is that we wasn't conquered. They just started stealing people, um, bringing them to the Americas and put them as slaves. The thing about it is, but everybody had them. They even had white slaves. They were indentured slaves. So anybody can say, well, hey, guess what? There were a whole lot of slaves back in those days, and there are no more slaves now. You all haven't been in slavery for a while. Then they can say, well, there was a civil war that was fought, and most of the people that had slaves died. So who owes you reparations? And the thing about owing reparations is that for slavery is that they can argue that point, and they can make a good argument. But the thing about it is that South Africa and African Americans kind of experienced basically the same thing. When you had when once slavery was over, you know, uh, Jim Crow started. Now, Jim Crow started because of the fact that white people wanted control. They were upset because they didn't have their free labor anymore. So they sought to enslave us in a different way. And Jim Crow was horrified. Now, here's the key point. The key point is that the difference is that we paid taxes. Okay? Keep that in mind. We pay taxes. And when you pay taxes for the government to protect you, the government to do what's right about you, the government is you're supposed to get everything that a free society is supposed to offer. We did not get that. As a matter of fact, they used the police to keep us in check. They burned us on trees. First of all, they castrated us. They burned us on trees. And guess what? They hung us. Here's the thing. Here, go close the door.
We're on live.
And they burned us on trees. And the thing about it is that we were paying taxes for that. They had us in fear. They didn't want to give us a job. When our wives and our daughters went to work, guess what? They were able to have their way with us, their way with our women, and nothing can be done. A white man can rape a black woman, and guess what? Nothing can be done. A white man could rape a black woman, and nothing can be done. A white man could shoot a black man, nothing be done. Medgar Evers got shot, and the guy went to court, and guess what happened? Nothing. They let him go. Matter of fact, he was making fun in court. They had all them white juries that let him go, and we were paying taxes for that. Emmett Till had witnesses, died, got away with it. And to this day, a lot of stuff is still. The lady who just got shot by another white lady, shot her through her door, killed her. They're not charging her with murder. George Floyd. All of this. You see what I'm saying? So I'm under the impression that we should not be suing for slavery and going through Congress. What we need to do, we need to just get a lawyer, go to the federal government and say, hey, we're suing you. Reparations for Jim Crow instead of slavery, because they don't want to give us slavery. They're gonna say, well, my father came here in 1920s. My father came here in 1920s. So why should we pay for slavery? We had nothing to do with that. And you got a lot of people that can say that. And we've been trying to get that for a while. And it has not happened.
I actually think both slavery and Jim Crow, we should receive reparations for both slavery and Jim Crow. And one of the things that I think about, like what my father just said, when you think about how a lot of people will try to say, "Hey, why should I pay for reparations? Why should that come out of my pocket?" You know, I wasn't alive during slavery. My father wasn't alive during slavery. Well, you see, here's the thing: America, as a country, benefited from slavery. America, as a country as a whole, benefited from slavery. So America as a whole should pay for slavery. It doesn't matter each individual doesn't matter. It's as a whole. As a whole, America became a powerhouse and became the strongest country in the history of the world, a lot due to the slaves they had. And a lot of people don't realize that slaves were the single hottest and most expensive commodity on the New York Stock Exchange. Yes, black people's bodies and black people's souls in their time was worth more than owning a house at the time. Was worth more than owning a house at the time. So if we translated that to today, that would be like saying, you know, a black slave was worth 250 to $300,000. That's what that translates into. That's no little thing. Slaves actually built the stock exchange, the New York Stock Exchange. A lot of people don't realize slavery was the first thing to be traded. The first commodity to be traded on the New York Stock Exchange were slaves. We were the economy. That's the first thing. You know what I mean? Then you have to think about how in the Jim Crow era, um, we are the only people really, besides South Africans, who had legal laws written to hold us down. There's no way you can defend against that. It's still on the books. It's still in the history books. A lot of different people were treated differently.
And it didn't happen 100 years ago.
And it didn't happen 100 years ago. The civil rights era, the civil rights bill was written and put into act in the late 70s.
I think it was put in act by Lyndon Baines Johnson, and he came in office during the 60s after Kennedy was shot. I was born in 1962. I was born in the era of Jim Crow when all of that stuff was going on. I don't remember too much because of, being a baby and all.
Peace and blessings, family. And that's just my thing. So if you think about it that way, in the 60s is 2023. So take 23 years, go back 23 years, that's 23 years. Then you go back, that would make it the year 2000. Then you go back another 32 years to 68. That's when Martin Luther King died, right? Mm-hmm. That's only 55 years? Yeah. That's only 55 years. You know what that means? That means the president of the United States was alive and well. He was in his prime years during a time where black people were legally discriminated against.
He was an adult.
He benefited from that. Anybody over 55 years old, if you are a Caucasian person, benefited from the legal segregation and the legal discrimination against black
90% of Congress and 90% of the Senate was alive and well adults.
So there's really no way you can really deny that. Who can really say, hey, I don't even know anybody who benefited from discrimination against blacks in slavery? Well, this was just under 55 years ago. And on top of that, let's think about it the way Kanye West thought about it. A lot of people like to talk about Kanye West and talk down on him and talk about crazy things he said. But I don't actually think that a lot of people were analyzing what Kanye West said. This was 2016. In 2016, Kanye West said 400 years of slavery is a choice. Slavery started in 1616. That's 400 years. Now, everybody with sense knows that actual cattle slavery stopped in the 1800s. So, what was he saying when he says 400 years of slavery is a choice? Basically, Kanye West was trying to say, in a way, we're still in mental slavery. Why? Because Chicago has been democratically ran by the Democrats for 70 years.
Yes.
New York has been democratically ran by the Democrats for 70 to 80 years. LA has been democratically ran by Democrats for 70, 80 years. DC, Miami, you name the city, it's been ran by Democrats for years and years. And these are the places where Black folks are in their worst conditions. Their absolute worst. Chicago is on fire. It's been ran by Democrats for 70 years. We are still in mental slavery because this next election we'll vote for him again.
And that's how they do it. So we sit back and we think that the Democrats are on our side when basically they're not. We got this congressman who's been in Congress for over 30 years, Jim Clyburn, who I like him and I think he's a good guy, but all of them people in Congress is his buddies, and he said we'll never get it. Mm-hmm. Stop fighting for it. You ain't gonna get it.
And here's the deal, man. You can look up people like the ADOS movement, American Descendants of Slaves with Tone Trump, different things like that, man. And they have the experts. They have Dr. Klaus Anderson. They have people like that who studied this their whole lives. Their doctorates is behind this and everything. And they're telling us to survive in America in the next few years comfortably the way you're supposed to, you're going to have access to at least $150,000. That's the type of savings you're going to have in order to survive here. And we don't have that. As Black people, we only have about $5,000 averaged out in our bank accounts between all of us. And most don't have that. That's the richest Black person and the poorest Black person averaged out. That's averaged out. To live and survive here, you're going to need $150,000 of savings. You're going to need bank accounts. You're going to need land in a home, the equity from a home to bag you up and be part of your credit. We don't have these things. And unless we push for reparations, we will not survive. We will not survive. Checkmate. It's almost over.
And this is what happened back in the day of the land grab. And Martin Luther King was going to march on Washington with this. And that was the Europeans, they were coming to this country and they were giving them out free land. Free land they gave them, thousands among thousands of acres. And then they gave them grants, millions and millions of dollars. And then they gave them more grants to not grow food, millions and millions of dollars. And then they say that they don't have anything to give us. We're not begging for anything, and we're not asking for anything that doesn't belong to us. The federal government was responsible for Jim Crow. It's just like Japanese got reparations for
being in internment camps.
Being in those internment camps. Who was responsible? The federal government. So the federal government gave them,
This is how dirty it gets. The American federal government actually pays Jewish people reparations for World War II and the Holocaust. And America had nothing to do with the Holocaust. We still pay them reparations and help them out. Even though we didn't perpetrate the Holocaust, but they would look at African Americans and American descendants of slaves and black people that they labeled black when they came here who had their own nationalities and tell them that they have nothing for them, that it just wouldn't work. That is absolutely insane. That's absolutely crazy. And like I was saying, we're getting to the point where unless we do something, unless we make some type of move, we won't survive. And here's the big deal. This is the big deciding factor and the big thing that's changing. I'm going to say my father might not necessarily agree. This is something that I've viewed. This is my own mind frame. I don't mean to sound prejudiced or that's not what this is about. I am black first, and I believe in black people, and I support my black people, and I want to do what's needed to be done for us to survive. And the Democrats are not stupid. They know that we know that they haven't been doing what they're supposed to be doing. And they know that the black people are fed up. So you know what's been going on for the last 2 or 3 years? They have been flooding America and American cities with illegal aliens. Now, I'm not racist. Hey, come do what you got to do, blow up. That's what America's about. But you have to understand what they're doing. They're trying to take away our chance to make ourselves whole before we get a chance to do it. Why? 22 million illegal immigrants have come in this country in the last 3 years. The Democrats right now are trying to push for illegal immigrants to have the ability to vote. There are only 30 million so-called black people here in America. If things keep going the way they are, we will lose our power and the power in our vote. How do you say that? What you say, what power? We're a minority. We are a minority, but we are the deciding factor in the Democratic Party. We don't have to be a majority. All we have to do is make the Democratic Party do what we want them to do in order to get our votes, and they would have no choice but to do it because they cannot win without us, except if illegal aliens keep coming into the country and they're able to give them the ability to vote.
And we have the power right now. These illegal aliens keep coming into this country, we're going to lose that power. The African American male right now have the power. You know, we see it. We understand what they have been doing. We understand what they are doing. And they know that we do. So right now, there's a little small battle between the African American woman and the African American male who kind of like saying, hey, we're done with Biden. We're done with all this. But the female is still kind of on that fence, and maybe they're gonna do what they're supposed to do. Maybe this. I'm tired of maybe. You know, look, it's been over 50-some years since Martin Luther King died, and we still ain't got what we supposed to get.
And how we know we still deserve it, not only from Jim Crow, but from slavery, is they admitted we deserve it. 50 acres and a mule didn't just come out of thin air. That's not something we made up. That's something that was promised to us that we never received. That's on the books.
And then what little we got under Jim Crow, they just came and took it and said, hey, get off this land with shotguns and chase us off the land. And guess what? Nothing was done. What a lot of people don't understand, in North Carolina, in one of the major cities, back in the day, what happened is that there was a riot after a lot of African Americans won to be in the state Senate and the state Congress. Guess what? They went and got their shotguns, took their land, chased them out of the city, and they never got their land back. never got their land back.
Little Africa,
There's a
Black
whole
Wall Street,
there's a whole lot of Black Wall Street that happened in this country.
over
A whole
200.
lot of Rosewood that we haven't even heard about. They keep it quiet. They took our stuff and never gave it back. And the government allowed it to happen. Everybody loves President John F. Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy. Did you know that Robert F. Kennedy didn't want to get Martin Luther King out of jail because it might insult the white folks and but Maria Shriver, who used to be Arnold Schwarzenegger's ex-wife, her father had to talk to John F. Kennedy by himself and said, you need to get this man out of jail before they kill him and we can get votes. Mm-hmm. So in other words, they didn't do what they did for us because of they loved us. They did it because of votes.
Which is the same thing that happened with Abraham Lincoln, basically. It was basically wasn't about releasing Black people as much as it was about making sure that the Union stayed together, mm-hmm. and making sure that the South didn't have too much power. There was a lot of power in having slaves, mm-hmm. having farmland and cotton and all of the things that slaves did. They wanted to cut to that. So there couldn't be any separation. So, it's just really crazy. It all comes down to here in America, this next election, as much as you want to just kick back and say, I don't want parts of nothing. This next election is the election of our lives.
Yes, it is.
Of our lives. And we have to find a way to put our vote against their need to be in office. We have to center our vote against the Democrats wanting the Republicans not to be in office so bad that they'll give us what we want.
I don't dislike nobody. I'm gonna tell you this right now. Personally, I made more money under Donald Trump.
I did too.
I made more money under George Bush, Jr. and Senior. You know what I'm saying? And I would never vote for Donald Trump, but I did make more money under Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to who's in office, it don't matter, because guess what? We do what we do for ourselves and we make it on our own. Nobody can say, I did this for African Americans. I did this for that. No, you didn't. I did it for myself. I went out there and did my own business. I went out there and got my clients. I went out there and did what I need to do. You didn't do anything for me. You can sit up here and say you did, but you didn't.
Dr. Claude Anderson, and a lot of them didn't do what they did for themselves either. There was a lot of land given away, a lot of money given away, a lot of grants, everything given away back in the days. But they would tell us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps.
Oh, yeah. When they didn't pull themselves up by their bootstraps. But that's what they told us to do.
Dr. Claude Anderson has a book. And in that book, he speaks about how the wealth gap, the money made from slaves, and the money that rich one percenters made, rich white one percenters made during the times of slavery, that gap between rich and poor, between black and white, if you adjust for inflation, is almost exactly the same. Everything that they cheated us out of and took from us is exactly the same. The wealth gap is exactly the same. If we were to get help and if we were to do what we needed to do and take a stand and get our reparations, our land, our money, our free educations, it would even us out. That's where it comes from. That's where the wealth gap comes from. That's where the difference is. They haven't exponentially added on to that. No. If you adjust for inflation and how much money is worth today, that's where the riches came from. It came from off the backs of slaves. It's time for us to step up and receive what we're owed before we can't anymore, before we're extinct and we're like the Mayans or the Aztecs. That's it.
And it's coming. It's coming. You know, I'm proud to say I'm a foundational African American. You know, always have been, always will. But the thing about it is that we got to step up and we got to make a decision. We can't be going through Congress because Congress ain't going to do it. We need to get together, get us some lawyers, and go present something that says, here's a lawsuit. Present it to the federal government with our hands and say, here's a lawsuit. We are suing your class action suit. We are suing you for reparations for Jim Crow. We paid you for protection and you did not protection. We have experienced all of this historical trauma because of that.
Malcolm X said, take it to the UN, take it to the United Nations. And that's when he died. As soon as he started talking about taking lawsuits and taking our plight to the UN, to the United Nations, Malcolm X was taken out of here. It's time for us to step it up, man. I can't stress this enough. We have no time left. As a matter of fact, you can almost say it's too late. We can't keep thinking the same. We can't keep watching these reality shows and being placated by football. They tell us you can't even sit down during the national anthem that talks about slavery and beating and murdering slaves and being proud of it. You can't even sit down for that, but yet we sit every Sunday and watch their shows, spend money on their jerseys. You know, it's time for all that to stop, man.
They got us in our heads and we don't know how to get out. You know, most of us, we think that we're just like them and they're not. Don't you know that every white person in this country knows someone that is racist? Every white person in this country knows someone that is racist. Is either they're in their family, you know, they're next to a neighbor, or they work with them. And guess what? They hide it from us. You know, we need to understand that we're not them, and they're not going to accept us for them. Put this scenario. If I was the leader of a country and I had this subgroup living in the country, but we were the majority, but this subgroup wanted equal power, would I give them equal power? No. Because that would take from us. And that's exactly, truth be told, that's how they feel.
That would make them fools.
They would be fools to give up that power. And they're not. But we as African Americans think that they will, because they tell us they will. They will not. You got to be the stupidest person in the world to give up your power.
You got to take it.
There's advantages to being in power.
If I'm a white guy and I know that the racist system is going to make it a situation where when I die and go away, my kids are still going to be all right, I don't care about anything else. And this is where you start losing people and things. When you start getting down to the nitty gritty and start being all the way real about things, you realize it's not even about race as much as it is survival.
Yes.
This is about survival. This is about who's going to have and survive and who will not. And most white people, yeah, there are a lot of racist white people out here, but most white people aren't knocking you off your square because they're racist. They're knocking you off your square because you being on your square means they lose a large part of theirs.
And that's the head right there. Put it this way right here. In order for us to gain, they have to lose. And people don't want to lose. Put it this way. Somebody comes to me and they say, hey man, Dexter, in order for Dexter to make it, you make $50,000 a year. All right. In order for Dexter to make it, we're going to have to take $25,000 to give to Dexter or provide a chance for people like Dexter to make it. You know what I'm gonna say? You ain't gonna take no $50,000 from me, no $25,000 from me, because I gotta make. That's just common sense, and they're not going to do it unless we force it.
Because we do deserve it. It's ours.
It's ours. We do deserve it.
They did something. If you do something, McDonald's gave somebody a cup of coffee and they took the lid off their self and spilled the coffee on them and it burned them. And McDonald's got sued and had to pay that person because they should have made the lid better so it wouldn't come off and they wouldn't. Now, how stupid do you have to be to not understand that you could get burnt by coffee? That is completely your fault. But you know what? Because it was theirs and because they were held liable for that, they had to pay. We have a situation where we were completely took advantage of and messed over. They're liable for that.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta pay, man.
See, if I was in their position, I probably would be doing the same thing. I wouldn't be putting nobody in slavery. I wouldn't be hanging people and doing all that. But if I had the power, I would want to keep the power. So therefore, if another person wants some power, they got to come and take it. They got to come and get it. Because I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose what I have. I don't want to give up what I have. You know, if I'm making $100,000 a year, I don't want to drop down to 95. I want to go up to 120. That's just that's just life. So we got to go get it. We got to go take it. That doesn't mean I hate you. That doesn't mean that I don't want you to have it. I just don't want to lose it.
Donald Trump is the best thing to ever happen to Black people. And I'll tell you why. It's not because of anything that he's going to do for Black people. Because he's just like everybody else. He's not going to do anything extra for Black people unless forced. Donald Trump is the best thing to ever happen to Black people because Democratic whites hate Donald Trump so much that they will do whatever it takes to keep him out of office. It is Black people's job to make it known that our vote is for sale from here on out.
And my vote is for sale.
For sale. Whoever is the highest bidder and gets us what we need, that's who we're voting for. It could be Republican. It could be Democrat. It don't matter. It's for sale. Hey, y'all hate Donald Trump? He's Russian inclusionist, illusionist, whatever you want to call it. He grabs women by the private. Yeah, he's terrible, isn't he? Oh, he's so dumb. He just talk. Yeah, just, give me my reparations and I'll be glad to vote to get him out of office or to keep him out of office.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'll be glad to vote to keep him out of office. But I'm going to need something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely going to need something. That's how I feel. I feel like that's how everybody else goes about it.
And the beauty of it is that whoever is in office, it doesn't benefit us because neither one gives us anything.
This is a win-win for us because we're at the bottom. We can't help but win. But all we got to do is stand strong. Can we do it though?
Yeah.
Will we come together to do it? Will enough people realize and stop feeding into all the other BS in order to see what really needs to be done?
Mm-hmm. You got to see what's need to be done in selling your vote. There's nothing immoral about selling your vote. Rich people do it all the time. White people do it all the time. You want my vote? This is what I want. That rich man will step in that congressman's office and he would go, hey, you want my vote? You want my money? I need this to happen. We need to do the same thing. I need for this to happen. If you cannot give it to me, then I will go somewhere else and I will I will sell my vote to somebody else.
Oh, can you imagine? Could you imagine if Donald Trump, if you know Donald Trump, show him this video. Because if he comes out this next election and says, hey, I'll give Black people reparations. Woo! soon, somebody gonna have a problem, man. Somebody gonna, hey, contact the Republicans, send them this video. Because I know how they can sweep the whole Congress next vote, this next election. It will be pure, it'll be a full House Republican. I got a secret for them.
Man, we can get anything we want. We just got to know how to do it. We just got to know how to do it. And we know how to do it. We just won't do it because for all of our lives, they told us they taught us what our values were. They told us what our values were. We wasn't able to pick our own values. They told us what our values were. And they told us that our values are the values of the Democrats. And you know what? When I think about the Democrats, I got values that are in the Republicans. I got values that are in the Democrats. I got values in a whole lot of values. Independent values that's not even in the books. But you can't tell me what my values are. I mean, there's a time if you look like you want to vote other than Democrat, man, you were punished by your own people. You can't vote for that, they racist. Well, the Democrats are racist too. They just nice about it. See, here's the thing. Jim Crow was mostly known for the South, right? All right. And they were treating them people really, really bad. But guess what? The black man couldn't go into the front door of a white person up north neither.
Oh.
They just didn't treat them and say it out loud to them.
My father was born down south, but his family migrated to Chicago. Same with my mother's. Chicago was one of the most segregated places you could be in probably in the country. It wasn't Mississippi, but it probably wasn't far from it. It's still like that till this day.
They just didn't hang nobody on trees. And they let the police do the killing for them. Here's a story that I told my son one day. And that is that this was in Bessemer, Alabama. I'm 14 years old. My dad, who had a great job, but didn't even own a house because they wouldn't let him own a house. All right. The person that was renting him the house came over and he was talking to my dad. My dad was probably 42. This guy was probably 26 years old, talking to my dad as if though my dad was a little kid. I came up behind him and punch him. My dad had to stop me because I was that new breed that came up that wasn't going to take that. I'm glad he did because guess what? The Klan was alive and well back in those days too. And my dad stopped me because and I was upset with my dad for that because I was like, no, there's no way this is going to go on with me. You disrespect my dad, you disrespect me, and I'm going to do something about it. But my dad, he stopped me. And I'm glad he did. But the thing about it is that people going to do what people want to do. People will tell you that they love you, but they really don't. People are going to tell you that they hate you, but they really don't. The biggest thing is, you know what? I got what I got. I want what I want. And I'm not going to give it to you. You got to come and take it. You got to come and earn it. Racism, non-racism. Does it really matter? You owe us a debt. You need to pay us our debt. You told us a long time ago that we need to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. And guess what? It was a lie because neither one of you pulled yourself up by the bootstraps. You had help from the federal government. And that federal government did not help us at all. That's the truth. That's the simple fact that they did not help us. They gave everybody something but us. And they continuing to do it to this day. You know what? The Asian people got a special law protecting them. How come black folks didn't get a special law? the Asians wouldn't be able to accomplish what they accomplished now, and because a lot of us died in the civil rights movement.
It became, that's one of the tricks that they played on us. It's like it went from being black to minority. So now everything that was a result of the civil rights movement is not just for black people, it's for all minorities. And never get it twisted, like I said, hey, more power to them. Mexican brothers, Asian brothers, uh, 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 Indian, Hindu brothers, Arab brothers, whoever it is, if you come here and you're able to take advantage of that and you're able to come up and be a successful person, I love that. I praise God for that. But we're getting down to the nitty gritty, and we're talking about my people. And the fact is, affirmative action, the food stamps program, all of that was stuff that they tried to say was for black people. But at the end of the day, everybody was able to take advantage of it. So,
Well, we enjoyed this little time that we had with you all, and
definitely.
subscribe to our channel, do what necessary to do. If a lot of people share this video, some people want to hear us, we'll come back again, say what we need to say. And thank you for your time, your honesty, and you all be a good blessing.
By the way, we see you, Revolutionary 2. Peace and blessings. We saw it earlier. We just wanted to keep things going, so we kept our train of thought. But peace and blessings to you. How you doing, Dexter Robinson? Peace and blessings to you also, brother. Appreciate you coming in and sharing your thoughts and spending some time with us.
And we will see you all next time. Thank you.
Definitely. Peace and love.